Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. And I want to talk about a recent experience that I had. I had to run a quick errand, just a couple miles from home, no big deal, won't take very long. And as I got away from home, a couple miles down the road, I realized that I didn't have my cell phone with me. And suddenly I felt kind of naked. I felt kind of untethered. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. What if I should have car trouble? What if I get to the store and I have a question about what I'm supposed to pick up? I'm kind of out of touch with everybody without my cell phone. What if I should miss an important update on Facebook while I'm out? Oh my gosh. And that got me thinking about the evolution of phones and thinking, not too terrible long ago, before cell phones, we'd travel all over the place. We'd go on long distance journeys without a phone, and we didn't think anything about it. We were perfectly comfortable. We didn't have this little feeling of disconnect and dread and helplessness without our phone. It's funny how current technology has had such an impact on our lives. When I was younger, we had phones like this, a Western Electric rotary phone. This phone doesn't have a lot of the features that modern phones have. You can't see who's calling. It just rings. And it's a lot more expensive back then. I had members of my family who lived out of state, and so we had a fair amount of long-distance phone calls to them. Now, it really wasn't very long distance, but it just crossed the state boundary, so therefore you had to pay a lot more money to make those kind of calls. Nowadays, with cell phones, we have nationwide free calling. Most of us do. You'd think that we'd be more connected than we ever have been. It's funny how things have evolved so rapidly. Back in those days, I was watching Star Trek sometimes. I was never a big Trekkie, but I watched Star Trek sometimes. And in the show Star Trek, this was a space adventure show that took place in the year 2300, 2400. They would travel through space and find other civilizations and investigate and so forth. And so the crew of the ship would oftentimes go down to the planet's surface and get themselves into some kind of trouble. And then they would use a communicator, which was their version of the cell phone, to go back to the ship and frantically say, "Beam me up, Scotty, and get us out of here." And we thought the communicator back in those days was pretty darn futuristic. Well, it didn't take too terribly long in our evolution for us to get those ourselves, just like this. And this Samsung flip phone, it's a great phone, but it's pretty obsolete by today's standards. But even so, it's a lot more advanced than the communicators in Star Trek ever were. Back in those days when I was a teenager, I remember a friend of mine who worked for the phone company, worked for Bell Special Services, which was kind of their high-end technical support group. One day he calls me up on the phone, and it's like, "Hey Barry, what you doing?" And I'm like, "No, nothing good. What's up?" He goes, "Hey, can I come over? I gotta show you something cool." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, that's fine. I'll see you in a bit." Great. So he comes over, and he says, "Hey, you gotta come out and see my truck. I got something cool." Okay. So I go out to his vehicle, his truck. He had a pickup truck, and his pickup truck had like bucket seats in it. And between the two seats, there's this big metal box full of electronics and a telephone handset on top of it. And he's like, "You gotta see this. This is so amazing. All you do is you pick up the handset and you punch in this code and whatnot, and this connects you to the telephone network, and you can make calls from your car. And this is going to be the latest thing. Everybody's going to want this, and it'll be coming out in a few years here, but we're just starting to do some preliminary testing and exploring." And I remember looking at that, and I'm going, "Well, that's fascinating. So you have a phone in your car." And it's like, "Yeah, isn't that amazing?" And I remember at the time thinking, okay, I guess that's cool and all, but I don't see any reason why you'd want a phone in your car. I mean, maybe if you're a diplomat or something, but really, what's the purpose? And funny how far we've come. And he was right. These days, everybody We don't even have a phone in our car. We have a phone on our person. It's amazing. But the funny thing is that you'd think that with all of this advancement, it's made it easier for us to be in touch with each other, easier for us to stay connected. But kind of the opposite has happened, hasn't it? It's like, instead of connecting with people, everybody seems to be looking down at the ground, looking into their phone, with their heads buried in their devices all the time. Instead of going out and meeting with our friends, we're just connecting with them through social media. Now, I think the technology is cool, and I think the technology is benign, but the way it's driven society, there's good and there's some bad. It's like, I think that we're further apart from each other than we used to be, even though the technology should make it easier for us to be closer. Maybe the technology makes it easier for us to put in less effort to interact with our friends. That's sad. So, I know there's a whole younger generation who's never experienced anything other than what we have. And for them, I feel a little bit sad. So, I don't have an answer. I guess I have a suggestion, which is technology is really cool. I think Facebook's really cool. Twitter, Instagram, all that. But I think it's really important for us to make a real connection. And so use these tools wisely. Know their limitations. And know that a virtual connection isn't a substitute for the real thing. Anyway, friends, just a thought on where we're going with technology. I think it's really important for us to have local, strong communities of friends and neighbors. And the best way to do that is to reach out, shake someone's hand, like in real life, rather than virtual. And I know that I am as guilty of this as anyone, and I need to put in more effort to spend real time with real people. But I know that, and I think you do too. I suspect. I'd appreciate your comments on the topic, so feel free to be respectful, please, but comment below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you are inspired to hit the button down there and subscribe. And hope to see you again with the next video. Thanks for checking in, and I'll talk to you soon.